Hello and welcome back to another video feature of the Immersive Worlds Handbook. Today I'm in Las Vegas, Nevada, perhaps as you can see, and I am at the Excalibur Hotel and Casino. And in this feature I want to talk about what really is in a theme and to what extent a theme is explored and developed in a Las Vegas casino, particularly in an era in which we see examples of de-theming occurring, as I've been talking about in quite a few other videos. So I think on the initial glance then here you can see, as I'm staying at the Excalibur, on the external of many of these casinos, the Excalibur, the Luxor as key examples, you have this iconic symbolism, and the iconic symbolism of course establishes what the theme happens to be in terms of the casino. In recent years, however, we've seen a de-emphasizing of these themes, and so I think with the case of the Luxor and also the Excalibur, in a sense the outside is more predominant than the theme that we see on the interior of the casino. I mentioned in another video feature on the Luxor that in fact back at the time the then CEO of MGM, when MGM acquired the Luxor, talked about the idea that what makes, in the case of Luxor, the theming shine is the externality, the fact of the pyramid. The stuff on the inside didn't matter as much. So I want to explore this idea here also at the Excalibur. So as I mentioned, the external theming quite predominant. So we happen to be inside the hotel room. I wanted to show you and take a look inside and see if any of this theming is present. So I think on first glance you could tell that in terms of most of the fixtures is a fairly standard, straightforward hotel room. Nothing in here that really indicates the theme. There are a couple places, however. So when we get the mirror, you actually can see in the mirror here an example of I think of a design focus that reminds us of Arthur and everything that probably we think of in terms of knights and castles and the round table and everything. And then actually in the bathroom, I think the one sign of it here, let me just flip the camera around. So you can see it, and that is this painting. And it is certainly everything that we think about in terms of this theme, and even to the extent we get the replication of the famous iconic castle. And what's really curious, and I'll show you some exterior photos later about this, I think if we zoom in, we could see here, I think that would be King Arthur. Sorry, that would be Merlin actually. So, in Merlin, what's interesting about having Merlin there is, if you know, in the exterior, and I'll show you some shots of that, quite a few years ago, they removed any reference of Merlin. There was a little audio animatronic event outside of the castle, the dragon and Merlin. So that's an interesting throwback, I guess, to the theme that is no longer with us.
Okay, and I'll share with you here another image of what used to be the iconic Merlin here at the Excalibur. And I recall in later years when they took Merlin out, they put a sign for Dick's Last Resort, which is of course one of the big restaurants that they promote inside the Excalibur. And what was interesting to me on my visit, again, I stayed in the hotel, I was looking for more theming on the interior of the hotel, but as is the case with the Luxor and many other strip themed casinos, including Treasure Island, there's a de-theming that's going on. That is the old audio animatronic dragon show, which was also removed. And I can't help but think that the operators felt like it was too kitschy, too corny, and so thus they had to change. When I look at this, though, the next set of images here of the video screen that I took images, these are all from different time periods, but there's just something here that doesn't fit, and I think it's obvious to you if you look at this image. But if you think about the theme and then the video screens, and you see these breasts, and then the next scene you see this woman, it starts to speak to me of disconnect between the theme and what they're trying to establish in terms of moving beyond that theme. Again, it's hard when you have a castle like this to de-emphasize that theme. It's the same issue with the Luxor, and certainly it's something maybe that presents a bit of a challenge maybe that isn't faced by the Monte Carlo, which never on the exterior was that dramatically themed. Now, I suppose one could say, the kitschiness and moving beyond the campiness of the Excalibur is necessary, but I offer this, and casino designers or operators, please feel free to ignore this, but what if one of these casinos in the future actually embraced the campiness and said, we're going back to the corniness, if it is corny, of Merlin and knights and King Arthur and so forth. There was a period, a brief period albeit, a period though when the Treasure Island did this, particularly through the Siren Show, and they turned it into sexual innuendo and camp. And as you'll see in another video feature, that show is no more, and they've replaced much of that area that used to be occupied by the pirate ships with a giant CVS, which seems to be the theme on the strip of we need more grocery stores or giant convenience stores. So interesting to think about. Again, what I was surprised at during my visit was how the interior theming wasn't really an emphasis. So let me go back to some of the live video that I recorded during my visit to the Excalibur.
Okay, and as we shift again, we're looking outside at the very famous iconic structures here of the castle at the Excalibur. And as I mentioned, a lot of this has been changing over the years, and we're seeing a de-emphasis on this theme. I happen to have the couple of the guides here of the Excalibur and also of MGM Resorts, M Life as they call it. And again, as you can see with the guidebook itself here, still pretty predominant. I think we have the old, it looks like we still have Merlin there on the castle on the exterior. And then inside, what's curious about a lot of the themed casinos inside, just if you look at all of the narrative, here's the one example. So they still do the Tournament of Kings, and this is an example, I would say, of the theme still being present, still being with us. But throughout the rest of the brochure, as you can see, advertising the other casinos, and what MGM has done in an interesting way is to connect all of these places, and I'll show you that just in a second. So in a sense, they're de-emphasizing each of the individual casinos in lieu of focusing on this idea of the world of MGM. So again, no referencing really. You get the sword in the Excalibur logo there, and as I said, you get the iconic structure on the front of the guide. So then when we look at the M Life magazine, and the M Life magazine again is what's emphasizing all of these properties. If you flip to the back of this particular issue, you can see what I was talking about earlier, and this is the idea of all of the resorts, an astonishing world. And as you look through here, you certainly do see the Excalibur there on the left. You also see New York, New York, the Mirage, many of the other iconic casinos. You also see certainly Cirque du Soleil being emphasized there, and you also see City Center, which you would say is a relatively unthemed casino. Another thing that they're doing right now, probably can't make this out, but on the bottom there they have all the other properties, so including properties in Mississippi. And I was watching one of the M Life videos on the TV set here in the hotel last night, and they were talking about a partnership they have with Hyatt right now that allows guests to take advantage of the M Life program and to use that at other hotels around the United States. And so I think in a sense what MGM is doing is interesting, integrating, connecting the properties and not focusing on any one theme. And then when you're a guest in one of the hotels, as I showed you with this, they're talking about other properties. They're saying, hey, go to Luxor and check out the Bodies exhibition, the Titanic exhibition, go to Mandalay Bay, look at the Shark Reef, and so forth, New York, New York. And that's really different. And I feel like years ago, when you had individual themes, and those were the only ones emphasized because maybe those were owned by just one company, you had maybe more emphasis on those themes, and now I think we see a breaking down of it for the sake of trying to connect the guests to all of the properties, as they say here, here are the things you could do in the neighborhood. And I think this further emphasizes this notion that, you know, you're not just in one casino, but you can go to, quote, the neighborhood and explore and see many different things. So perhaps part of the reason for the de-emphasis on theming in the individual resorts like the Excalibur in Las Vegas. Hope you enjoyed this video feature today on what exactly is a theme, and please come back for additional video features for the Immersive Worlds Handbook.